Good afternoon and welcome to today's Software AG webcast titled Analytics for Anything. My name is Will Carter and I'll be your webinar host. Today's webcast will be presented by Eric Wood, Principal Systems Engineer at Software AG. As we move through today's presentation, I invite you to submit any questions that you may have via the Q&A box, which is located in the lower right corner of your WebEx session. We will do our best to answer all of your questions. In the event that we are not able to answer your questions, your submissions will be recorded, and today's presenter will be back in touch with you as soon as possible. Additionally, today's presentation is being recorded. This recording will be available to you via YouTube should you wish to access it later on. To receive a copy of the YouTube, please email the webinar host. Before I turn today's presentation over to Eric, I would like to briefly introduce you to Software AG. Software AG offers the first end-to-end digital business platform based on open standards with integration, process management, adaptive application development, real-time analytics, and IT portfolio management as core building blocks to help customers build their digital futures today. With over 45 years of customer-centric innovation, Software AG is ranked as a leader in many innovative and digital technology categories. Software AG has more than 4,300 employees and is active in 70 countries. It is now my pleasure to welcome Eric Wood.
Thank you very much, Will. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar for Streaming Analytics for Anything. Thank you for taking the time this afternoon to take a look at our solution. So today I will start with a brief overview and then look at one of our demos from a PLV that we did with one of our customers. So let's get started. We're currently living in a society where information has to be readily available instantaneously. For an example, you go into a store and you swipe your credit card. You want to make sure that this particular payment is a valid payment, if you have enough funds available in this account, or is it a fraudulent activity and we need to track that information. Another example is an airline. Our airline has a flight that's coming in that had been delayed from another airport due to weather or air traffic control. And there are passengers that are on that plane that need to make a connecting flight. Not only will they need to make the connecting flight, but their luggage needs to also make that connecting flight. So we have data that we need to provide to the grounds crew as well as to the other staff within the airport so that they can be readily available to get these customers to the various destination, especially when your connecting flight is on the other side of the airport. And another example is in a financial scenario, financial market. There should be someone watching the stock market as dramatic changes happen. And prompting those who need to buy or sell, or actually looking at these results to see what they could do by watching predictions of what could happen. As we walk around our daily lives, there's data just flying everywhere all around us. It's actually kind of intriguing and fascinating to me, but to others it's kind of scary because they think Big Brother's watching, especially when an average American citizen is caught on camera more than 75 times a day. Now, a lot of us probably won't notice it, but you think about it. You're getting on the elevator at work, there's a camera. You're getting gas at the gas station, there's a camera. You're going through traffic, the stoplights, there's a picture. So not only just cameras and surveillance cameras, but there's also information that is flowing through by social media, transactions that are going on within transactional systems, and other network sensors. So this data just flowing throughout and around us. We may not be able to see it, but it's there. And it's in vast amounts and moving very rapidly. All of this data moving rapidly in the rate of billions of transactions per second, you can only imagine the vast amount of value information that it contains. This information can be used to determine business opportunities, like uncover risk or fraudulent systems or system failures, as well as predicting who might win the Super Bowl, and God forbid, the next president of the United States. As we mentioned, this data comes from various data sources. And we need some type of platform or solution that can ingest this data that is flowing and figure out what type of pattern of this data, what are the various combinations, and how we can use this data usefully. Wow, look at this. Wouldn't it be great to see all of our data that we have in a dashboard of some source like this, where we feel like we're at Command Central, where we can now look at all of our systems and see the activity was actually going through our organizations and our transaction systems? Not only just watching it in dashboards, but also receiving real-time messages, alerts of actually what's going on in my environment. Because they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, there is such a solution, and there is such a platform. It's Software AG's Apama, which is our streaming analytics platform. Now, there's nothing new about performing analytics with our data that we've already had. We've been doing this for years in our transactional databases and in our warehouses. But this is just a little bit different way of doing our traditional ways of analytics. Traditionally, we analyze static data. This is data that, let's say, that's our customer data or our orders or shipments in such of a supply chain. This is great information, but this is data that has already happened, and we're processing things that already happened. But with streaming analytics, also called event streaming processing, our solution is built on a complex event processing platform, what we call a CEP. And this handles large volumes of data in motion, called event streams, as well as provide results on actions or sets of actions such as financial transactions, equipment failures, and can also trigger other activities to happen within our environment. Our event streaming analytics platform is built on an in-memory architecture that allows us to process real-time data very, very quickly. This platform captures this data from any device with low latency. It then performs the analytics on the streaming data. It may also reference history data so that we can look at this data to identify various patterns so that we can predict what happened or what could happen. Now, this is the latest wave from Forrester, stating that Software AG is in the top right-hand corner of the quadrant, and that we are one of the leaders in streaming analytics. So Software AG product itself delivers scalability, management, operators, and application development tools that are world-class and need to make real-time decisions. Now, this platform is well supported via our integration with Software AG's own in-memory data grid, such as Terracotta, and it has the capability for our integration platforms with web methods. This will allow you to take all of this data and allow your company to go, if you wish to undergo a fast digital transformation and build your own IoT, your Internet of Things application. Now let's look at some of the components within streaming analytics, or analytics for anything as we call it, and I'll talk to you later about that. Well, one of the components I mentioned earlier, you have all this data going around, we need a method to capture this data. Now, the Apama engine has various adapters that will allow you to capture this data to ingest it into this engine to be processed. Some of these adapters that we have with the product is a web service adapter, a middleware messaging adapter, a custom real-time feed adapters, as well as database adapters that allow you to get access to various and the most popular databases in the industry today. But we also think that it's best that you write directly to the in-memory architecture because it can handle high volumes of data more rapidly. Another component is you need something to help analyze it. Now, the Apama engine itself is called the correlator. And what this correlator does, it executes sophisticated event pattern matching logic that you predefine in your Apama application. I consider the correlate like a meat grinder. And when you put in your this data flowing through this meat grinder, you have various ingredients that you grind in so that you can produce the correct meat or sausage or whatever you're building out of the back end of it. So this correlate is a pattern architecture that can monitor huge volumes of events per second, as well as process the streaming analytics and work with not only current analytics that are streaming through, but predictive analytics. They work hand in hand because at times you need to look at data that is done in a predictive model so that you can correlate these two data, the types of data together to predict what happened or what could happen. The third, you need to act upon it in this component. So once you have ingested the data, and the engine has detected some interesting situations that met the criteria, we need to react on it. So in reacting, we can kick off other business process like making a customer a better offer, or issuing a coupon or a code when they visit a website and they're looking at a sweater, or you're walking into the store and you pick up a pair of shoes or another little gadget and say, you know what? I'm going to send this to this particular person because this is a pattern that they think they may just might buy this offer. Or it may issue out alerts to the respective systems or individuals. Then once you have reacted, you may also have this data and present it in a visual dashboard, like using the product from Software AG called Software AG Mass Zone Next Generation. Now, what I would like to talk about from this point on is a solution that we came up with for a customer in South America. Our South American team had a customer that wanted to do some analytics on their legacy application. And they've heard an awful bit a lot about our Apama solution. And they wondered how can they incorporate their backend systems with this current streaming analytic platform. So our team in Brazil, South America, was able to provide them with a solution. And we called this solution Event Analytics for a Database, because they wanted to do processing on events that was happening in a database and an add-on product that was of a part of the database, which was Review. This was our first introduction to a database in Natural and IntelliRx data feeds into our Apama streaming analytics platform and dashboard. And this was about a little over a year, maybe a year and a half, when this solution came about. And we called it Streaming Analytics for a Database. And our product code was EAA. But we looked at this, and when they presented us the solution to the U.S. group, we looked at this and said this will be an excellent fit for a lot of our customers here in the United States. So what we did with this particular solution was we launched it like we did a few years ago with our event replication solution. We started off with a few customer proof of concepts, and we selected a few of our large customers. We did the New York City do it, and we also did a state government, the state of Minnesota. And they were willing to do the proof of concept. And when we sat down and started looking at case studies and how this will fit into their environment, we not only found that we can not only look at Review, but we can look at other components within their environment and other products, such as other tools within reports that were in a database, as well as within IntelliRx and within Natural. So from this point, we kept saying, well, why are we limiting the name of this product to a database? That's when we coined the name Event Analytics for Anything. So this is an architecture of how we presented this to our customers here in the U.S. I mentioned earlier that in order to do analytics, you have to capture the events, the data. So out of Entirex, Natural, Database, there are various reports that are generated. And so once we had those reports generated, we then looked at our other suite of products within the Web Methods suite to actually automatically feed these reports and this data into Apama. So once some of these reports, which were in regular mainframe data sets in mainframe format, we had to get this data in a format that Apama could understand. But in order to get it, we had to get it over to the platform. So we used our active transfer tool, which does FTPs. So we FTP'd this data from the mainframe, and we placed it into our integration server. Integration server from that point took the data in its raw formats from the mainframe, and so that was if it was not in a format that Apama could understand, we took the flat files, we changed them to XML, and there were some .csv files, and then we placed them onto our universal messaging, where it did the parsing of those XML files and those .csv files, and created a message or a topic for Apama to ingest. Once that information was in that format, we passed it over to Apama, and the event correlation did the processing. That's the engine. That's the meat grinder, where the instructions and the application that we built in the Apama platform worked on that data. The next step was to take that information, and we wanted to store it either in our big memory Terracotta, or we had the options of placing it in an RDBMS. Now, for POV purposes, we placed the data in a SQL Server database, but we could have placed it in Terracotta as well. And then Apama itself, based on some of the criteria, provided alerts based on what we described and defined in that application. And we sent out SMS and alerts as well as emails when a certain situation occurred. With that data being placed in the RDBMS, then for dashboarding purposes, we use our tool, Matchstone Next Generation, to present these dashboards. So let's talk a little bit more about this customer's proof of concept. We did a conference call with this state government customer and to discover some use cases. So they came up with two use cases. One use case was they wanted to look at unauthorized access to sensitive cases, and these are social services cases, and then they wanted to see the number of times these cases were accessed. So when we went on site, within 3.5 days, we installed all of the products mentioned earlier, did all the data collection and transporting, was able to do the mapping and placing the data in JMS and queuing that up for Apama, built the rules or the application and alerts, built the dashboards, and by that Thursday, we were able to actually demo those two use cases. Think about it, all of that in 3.5 days. But we needed the help from the customer because they knew the data. We knew the software, they knew the data. So then once we did the demo for them on that Thursday, they invited a wider audience. And that audience said, wow, this is really great. Well, they put us to the challenge. Do you think if we give you a few more case studies that you can provide us that and do that demo for us the next day, but on that Friday? We all looked at each other and said, well, absolutely. So from just going from the unauthorized access by case to the most case access, these were all of the different case studies that we came up with that Thursday night, and we presented it that Friday to that audience, and they were very happy and it was very well received. So looking at the architecture, this is some of the information that we did for this customer. They had data from the database that we wanted to pull out for the users that were accessing the system. And then they also had an application that read the database and created CSV files. We FTP'd that information down. It went via active transfer. IS was polling, waiting for that file to come down. WebMethods IS took that. It parsed it. The universal messenger grabbed that, placed it on the message queue, and Apama picked that up and did the work for us. So let's take a quick look at the demo. These are the results of the demo. So from this use case, we created some mashups. One was called case violations and case access, and then information about county working information. Hopefully this hasn't timed out for me because I know I talked a little bit. But anyway, so what we've done is the data that came through database and from the other system went through the integration server. This is the information that was detected. We wanted to find users that was unauthorized and look at certain case IDs. So we wanted the top 3 cases. So these are, I hope you can see this, these were the top 3 cases that were in violation that had more access to them than any of the other cases that were running through the system. Now, again, this was a human services, so we're looking at cases that were for high-profile individuals like athletes and actors and doctors, looking at child support or any type of abusive court cases. So we wanted to know who was looking at some of these cases because a lot of the information was being leaked out to the media, and they were trying to figure out how this information was actually being put out there. So we built dashboards looking at the 3 most violated cases, and these were the unauthorized users that was looking at these cases. So for this one case that ended in 403, there were actually 471 violations. Somebody was really nosy out there. They really wanted to know what was going on and keep track on this particular case. So that was, and this particular user, information was displayed as well. This user, you see that ended in 473, this user was actually looking at this case that amount of time. This user actually looked at that case 462 times out of the 472 times this case was being looked at. Wow, it was unbelievable. But this is one way we can detect what was going on within that case. Another option was looking at most access case by numbers, most access by users, and the actual cases themselves. So what we've done in this, we gather the same information, but we put some other criteria so we can drill down further into this data. So we can actually look at, by setting at the bottom there, some other criteria to actually streamline and filter out the data. So based on the day that was going on, we wanted to see how many times these particular cases were being accessed by this particular users. So this, by changing the date to the 5th, these were all the cases that were actually being accessed by these particular users based on the user ID. So this gives you a good idea of what you can do with the data that you currently have, right? So if you would like to know, have more information about our streaming analytics, this is the email, the website address, or you can call any of your Software AG account reps or your systems engineers to set up your own POV and talk a little bit more about our EAA solution. Like I mentioned earlier, we know software, you know your business. Together we can achieve great things. When we open our minds together, the impossibilities become impossible, and the possible can get done. If you partner with us, we will be relentless in the pursuit of your goals and help you achieve results that exceed your expectation. At this point, I would like to turn this back over to you, Will, for any questions. And I'd like to thank you.
Great, Eric. Thank you, Eric. That was very, very informative. We have a couple questions that that I'll pass to you. The first one is, what can be fed into Apama?
pretty much anything can be fed into a Palma. Like I mentioned before, you can do any type of flat files, logs from different RDBMS, any audit files, as well as, especially with the different adapters, based on what you're trying to capture. If you can capture it, you can put it through a Palma.
Okay. The next one is, can this analytic process be in real time?
Absolutely. That's the beauty of the product. It can be in real time, but again, it can be. It also can be in near real time, depending on what you're capturing. So if you have things like audit files that you have different, taking snapshots of the time, then that will be in near real time. But you can have the data sent directly into a Palma when those events happen.
Okay. The last question we have, is this EAA a packaged solution for those of us that are AdaBase natural customers?
Absolutely. Let me see if I can go back to that slide. We've actually packaged this up for our A&N customers so that we will give you an access so that with this package, you can build your analytics solution for analyzing the data that you currently have in your transactional systems, as well as allow it to expand out to other data feeds that are within your enterprise.
Okay, that's it on the questions. So hang on quickly 1 second. Another one, I'm sorry. Can you also add predictive analytics models in a Palma?
Absolutely. That's the beauty of a Palma. So it works with, as I mentioned earlier, streaming analytics as well as various predictive models. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Eric, thank you for taking the time today to deliver this presentation. Thank you to everybody on the webcast who has joined us. We appreciate your being here. And with that, our program is over, so I hope everyone has an enjoyable rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.